Emily Elizabeth, and I'm the host of the What Fulfills You podcast, a show for and about individuals always seeking to be their best selves. On this show, we talk all about building the mindset, finding the right careers, creating meaningful relationships, and so much more. Welcome to the What Fulfills You podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the What Fulfills You podcast. My name is Emily Elizabeth. I'm your host, and welcome as always. If it's your first time tuning in, for today's short episode, I wanted to dive into something that has been impactful in my life for quite some time now, and something that I've realized that a lot of my friends and peers learn from me. And it's around staying in touch and following up, and how that's impacted me in my business world, but also even in personal life. And I guess I got inspired by this topic because in recent months, my marketing agency, I was able to take on some new clients and add on basically a whole new portfolio. And a big part of how that really stemmed is because of the amount of follow-ups I did with a particular person. So let me actually rewind it a little bit. For those of you who don't know, I started my marketing agency back in early 2021. And for me personally, I always knew that not only am I great at social media and understanding the way a brand can speak to its audience based on what their audience actually is and based on how they can present themselves, but also I realized that I really enjoy this, and I enjoy the business aspect of social media, not just as a content creator, which I feel like can be a little bit more on the creative side. So, fast forward, I ended up doing an influencer collaboration at a hotel in New York. This is 3 years ago. And through this influencer collaboration stay, as a content creator, I was able to get connected with some of the inner people at the hotel. And I ended up getting coffee with the woman that actually set me up at this hotel. And she had a pretty relevant position, very relevant position actually, within the hospitality group that manages this hotel, amongst others. And I recall on the spot, I basically asked her who handles all of the social media for the hospitality group, because I noticed that not only this property, but quite a few of others were lacking in that department. And at the time, they didn't have anyone. They were kind of all managing it a little bit, like people in the sales team and whatnot were helping manage the social media. And so I, on the spot, pitched her my agency, what I do outside of my life as an influencer and content creator. I also run this agency. I work with A, B, C, and D types of clients and types of businesses, and I think this could be a good fit. And so that was 3 years ago. I would follow up with this woman probably once every 3 to 4 months just to make sure I'm top of mind, just to check in. And it wasn't until about 2022, it wasn't until about 9 months later did I get my foot in the door with her and the entire hospitality group. And it actually started at a sales event. I was invited to come take content, to introduce myself, to meet different managers at different properties. And at this time too, I hadn't been living in New York for a while. I was still getting accustomed to the city, but it was a really awesome experience and insight. And from there, I was able to continue to expand and, basically build my clientele for my agency. Now, before I move forward, I want to make sure I highlight getting in the door with a hospitality group. It was probably at least 4 or 5 follow-ups over a span of like 9, 10 months, right? But then I didn't really start getting a lot of traction until the following year, I want to say. So like I was invited to that event around like spring 2022, and then I didn't quite get in the door with some of the properties that were more relevant to me, I think, and are also part of my portfolio now. I didn't get in the door until early 2023. However, after that, the person that was my main contact at that point, she actually left the hospitality group and ended up going to a different one. So not only did I have to start making new connections and making sure I was very client facing and, made sure I stayed in touch with the right people, but also it made me go prospecting in different ways. Now, the best part, though, is that this woman and I ended up creating a more personal slash business relationship where we stayed in touch. She actually had me create some reels and different content that she wanted for her own personal use and whatnot. And we stayed in touch over the year, even after she left the hospitality group that I was working with. However, 1 year later, again, right? So fast forward to 2024, she ends up reaching out to me, somewhat out of the blue, and sharing with me some possibility to work together again. And she would share insights on the property and these different hotels and the whole new group that she's with. And that ended up bringing me a new array of properties and, of course, expanding on that side of my business as well. Of course, I expand through my own prospecting with my team and also client referrals. That's also very frequent, and one of my favorite ways of getting new clients is because when a client refers you to someone that they know or they work with, or another GM refers you to another GM at another property, general manager, it's often like, okay, you already have a stamp of approval, So that's how I'd often get a lot of my clients in the first early years, besides hunting down and cold emailing different ones. But I share all of that because something that I learned from working in my corporate sales job a few years ago is the importance of following up at least 5 to 7 times. And for those of you who have never worked in sales or have never even tried following up 5 to 7 times, that might sound really audacious and almost overwhelming. But it's really funny because I've noticed the impact when someone follows up with me at least 5 times. Half the time I didn't respond or initially I didn't respond because it didn't catch my eye the first time, or I read it when I was on my phone but wanted to respond on the computer, or sometimes I've actually legitimately missed it in my inbox. Somehow it just gets to the bottom and I completely missed it. So I know the benefits of being on the receiving end when someone actually does their due diligence and follows up, but also it is immensely impactful if you continue to follow up with someone, but also it is immensely impactful because if you continue to follow up with someone and if you're actually annoying them and you're not providing value, they will tell you. So you will get booted pretty early on. At one point or at some point, they're going to be like, all right, you know what, Emily, not interested, but thank you. So that's a start. I will accept that kind of rejection pretty well because I know that, all right, this is just not aligned fit and we're going to move on. But other times, there have been many different occasions where it was because of the following up that put me in the door, whether it was getting a new client. I remember one that I got recently. I followed up over a span of like 6, 7 months. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Over a span of like 10 months, I followed up at least 5 or 6 times. And it was on that final time that he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been traveling. Like, let me get you in touch with the new manager, whatever. I was able to land that client. And same thing with the woman that I worked with from the very beginning, who ended up switching to a different hospitality group. It was the fact that I kept myself relevant, top of mind, in email, in text, whatever. It was the fact that I was genuinely interested in helping and also made it a point to keep myself relevant that enabled her to think of me when she needed someone to fill this role of, okay, we need to hire an agency, or this property needs an agency, whatever that may be. This also goes with personal life. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. I am the type of person that will follow up with my friends to make plans, whether to get dinner or to, I don't know, plan a weekend trip, whatever that looks like. A lot of people are busy and that's normal. And it's also pretty normal to forget that in the moment and feel like, you know what, I feel a little rejected. So I'm not going to follow up with this person. If you're the one following up and making an effort and someone doesn't respond well to it, it is not your loss. Remember that, okay? And this is how I've looked at it with friends as well, in that I don't mind being the one to reach out and give my friend a FaceTime, or be the one to say, hey, it's been a minute. Let's go get dinner. Let's catch up. Let's go to a workout class, right? It doesn't hurt because at the end of the day, it's either going to be a win-win or a win-lose situation, in that I'm always going to be on the winning side as the person reaching out and the person trying to build connection, because if the person is available and interested, we connect and that's a win-win and they get to win on that front too. And for me, I also recognize, like, if someone doesn't reach out to me and I'm going to be too stubborn to reach out to them, or too much in my ego to be like, you know what, let me invite them, let me reach out, that's me taking an L, in my opinion. And I think when I get to put myself forward, be authentically myself, and people respond to that, that's still a win for me in that context, because I realize that the right people aligned in my life will be attracted to that energy, will respond well to that energy, will also make the effort. I have friends that if I don't call them, or if I called them but they weren't available, they'll often call back. They'll just call back and be like, hey, I'm sorry I missed your call. Those, I just know they exist, and sometimes it comes with experience of experiencing really amazing people that show up in your life, that show up in the way that is reciprocated, that matches your energy. So the benefits of it, right? You know the benefits of staying in touch with people and following up with people. And like I said, it really goes both ways, both in business and personal life. The more you do this, especially in your career, right? Especially if you're applying for jobs or trying to get in the door for something, or trying to get a position anywhere, follow up at least 5 to 7 times minimum. And that's obviously assuming that, they didn't respond the first 5 times. So many people give up that time. I have even gotten my influencer hotel collaborations, for those of you who are not aware, as a content creator, and I'm a micro content creator, you guys. I'm barely at 10K followers. And it is the fact that I follow up with these hotels 3, 4, 5 times. There's an email thread that I just had like a couple of days ago where they responded to me after 3 follow-ups that I had. 3 follow-ups, right? And sometimes they're just busy, you guys. They're just busy. So it's on you to follow up with people, right? Other people and business people or personal life people, everyone's got their own shit to worry about. Everyone's got their own life. And if you want to have certain people in your life and to bring them into your circle and to create impact with them in the world, whatever that may be, as deep as that sounds, you got to take initiative. You got to take initiative and you got to be the one to make the moves, right? You are the designer of your life, per the latest episode, right? Designing a life you actually want. Part of that is taking initiative, and sometimes taking initiative means following up or staying in touch with the right people. That is all I have for today's short and sweet episode. I hope this little topic inspired you in some way, whether in your personal career or your personal life with friends, romantic partners, whatever that may look like. I know that this tip and this insight really helped me in my own life, and I want to make sure I get to share that with the rest of the world. When those of you guys are always asking, like, how did you get this? How did you do this? Or how did you get this type of person, bring them into your life? The first answer that comes to mind is I took initiative and I followed up a lot more than a lot of people have ever. So Hope you guys enjoyed that little secret and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll chat with you all next time.